So Dan, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks
So
for having me.
excited to chat. Right now in education with AI and personalization coming in, how are you supporting teachers with innovation?
Oh man, I guess right out of the gate to support teachers and with AI. Before I get into the how to support it, I was just having this conversation multiple times this week that I've been a superintendent for 15 years and a school administrator now, for over 20. It's been a long time. And so in many ways, we're dealing with the same problem, just differently in different technology, even though AI is so powerful, in what it can do. When I was a middle school assistant principal, we were cutting edge doing a Palm Pilot, one-to-one Palm Pilot program. We're having some of the same conversations with that as we are AI, right? But to go forward with AI, and I do think everything moves faster. Just heard a really engaging presentation upstairs, and the conversation there was, we've had the digital divide, but with AI, it's going to be even greater and happen faster. So our imperative is to work quickly to get this in front of our students. What we're doing is putting the AI in the hands of the teachers, and some may be controversial for some. Let them experiment. Let's not have a model. Let's not put too many rules around that. And I know that can be scary as well. So you do have to keep an eye. And we're starting with the teachers level, but then we're also working at a district level to move down to the policy side too.
So what you're describing to me is co-leading and co-learning, where the system's not so tight. There's some room for teachers to try and feel comfortable, right? And so, that is a wonderful thing. We often talk about data-driven, right? So how do you currently describe to me, what does it look like in your district as far as giving teachers opportunity to look at data? What kind of data are they using it for? How is it changing their instruction?
Well, I think that's yet to be determined, right? Because there's not a solution model. We are experimenting in that experimentation phase. But I think to a point I want to make to that question is, AI, no matter what we're looking at, what the solution, what the platform is going to do nothing without a strong teacher in front of it. We have to keep the teacher at the front of that. And the first question needs to be not looking at the AI solution, because there's so many out there. It's what problem are we trying to solve? Okay. Once we ask the question, what problem are we trying to solve? We can then narrow down and start looking at the solutions or the AI technology that would best help us and help that teacher be the best teacher that they can be, not replace that teacher, not give the teacher one more thing to do. And I think that's the fear right now, is it's just another thing for me to do. So if that can help the teacher with assessment, whether it's formative or summative assessment, and give that teacher some space to be able to work more efficiently and more quickly, give them space in their personal life and say, here's where you need to focus your instruction as a class. Here's where you need to focus your instruction individually with students. That could help them tremendously. Free up their nights and weekends without removing them from the equation. But let's help our great teachers be even greater through efficiency.
That enhance on what you're already, the great things you're doing. I love the idea of what question are we trying to answer?
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just this sexy tool over here, but we're not quite sure what is our inquiry question. What are we trying to solve?
And at times that means let's go slow to go fast. Because again, there's so many tools out there. And if it's not moving the needle in student learning, then you shouldn't be doing that. And we have summative, we have data, we have hard data that we want to look at, but there's also the soft data. Had a conversation with a colleague recently about how does it improve confidence? Okay, well, that's something that it may not, the learning outcomes may not tell you. So can we start incorporating, student surveys and student feedbacks into that too? Because it's improving their confidence in an area. So as the educators, we need to look at that too. Yes, we want to see the gap close in our reading scores and our math scores. But also, if I know my kids are becoming more confident readers, but I'm not seeing the student outcomes, it means we want to stick with it. It's a little more stick with itness instead of dropping the solution and going on to the next thing.
That qualitative data, right? The quantitative tells us one story, but the qualitative tells another story. As a math teacher for 20 years, right? We want them to feel like mathematicians, we want them to be confident in their skills. Leading to the question of, we know that math is often the gatekeeper for kids to get into college.
Right.
right? They can't pass algebra. They've taken it 2 and 3 times. What are you all putting in place in your district to help support kids kind of get over that math hump, right?
Yes, that's a phenomenal question. So let's begin with the end in mind. One of the things that I think has been very powerful, and I would encourage any school district to do, is go past your high school experience and see what kids are doing in the post-secondary experience. How many of your kids are going to community college and have to take remedial courses? How many kids are switching majors? How many kids are not finishing after 2 years? And then answer the question, why? And one of the things I've seen over the years is the school districts I've worked in have been very good at helping kids go to college. But then what we saw when we dug down into the data was more kids were taking remedial courses in math and even reading, but specifically math, than should happen. And so we just had the good but hard conversation. If we are who we say are, no child should leave our school and have to take a remedial course at community college or at the university. It saves the kids time. It makes the kids more likely to finish. It saves the parents money. That's important, parents. It saves you money, right?
Taking courses that aren't counting towards
and so, yes.
remedial.
But then to deal with that work at the school, that's where we start to looking at the teacher efficiency. If you're doing more of that remedial work, if the kids are if you're able to work with your community college and get that remedial coursework taken at the high school level, but that also means there's more need for intervention. There's more need for, I would call it academic coaching. A friend of mine, Candace Sears, I have to give her the credit because she told me this today. Instead of saying tutoring, it's academic coaching.
I love that.
Right? But getting those kids those supports, and that's where, again, you could see AI being that tool to help the teachers get all kids to where they need to be. Let's give great people the tools to do that work.
The differentiation was always the difficulty, right? As a middle school math teacher for 20 years, that was my challenge. But with AI, right, it's a little easier to differentiate for a wide group of kids.
And let me say it in a superintendent's perspective. We talk about helping teachers, right? I had a conversation with a colleague who's implementing an AI solution, who's a superintendent, and it's in the budgeting process. And he's able to take his original budget and his current ledger, and the AI will generate his amended budget, produce all the PowerPoints, and do all the advertisements. Okay.
Still my heart. Right?
That's something, that's a lot of math there. That's something that took us weeks and months when we were doing that by ourselves, right?
As a former categorical director, I remember trying that. Oh, so wonderful. And imagine what you can now do with that time you've saved, get into classes more, go visit schools, do community outreach, all those things that you didn't have time to do because you were bogged down with some of these tasks.
How much more quickly you can make adjustments and how much more quickly you can respond to teachers and parents when they have needs and say, hey, in January, can we do this? Well, we're still working on the amended budget.
Right. We're still cogs that
you can answer that question. You can answer that question within minutes instead of days, weeks, or months.
Beautiful.
And again, I use that as an example that it's not just the classroom, but that's transitioning from the classroom to the real world, how AI can be a help to both.
I love that
in the education setting.
If I were to come to your district as a brand new teacher, what support would I get? How do I know what I'm supposed to teach? How do you make sure I'm successful? Because you sound like you're very heartfelt in supporting the teachers. What does that look like if I show up as a new teacher?
2 things that are incredibly important. One not greater than the other, but they are really important for new teacher success. Deep peer mentoring, having a mentoring program, and academic coaching. Having a coach and having an academic coach who is a safe space for that teacher. And we provide that for all teachers, not just our first and second year teachers. All teachers have coaching open to them, but first and second year teachers, that's something we require them to do, but not as a punishment, as a huge support. But then you open that up, and it's such a great help to have that mentor, but also that coach who can come in and watch you teach, but also teach, give examples of teaching and co-teach. Yeah. And I think those 2 things, that peer support and that peer-to-peer is really, really important.
Oh, that is beautiful. How do I know what I'm supposed to teach? Is there a pacing guide? Do I just get the book? How do I know what I'm supposed to cover in my coursework?
So your curriculum and your pacing guide, but also your department, your teams and collaboration with your other teachers in your school district.
Got it. What would you say, what are you most proud of that you've put in place or implemented during your time at superintendency?
Man, 15 years, there's so many things. I think one of the things I'm most proud of is, and it comes really from my own learning. I was a high school person. I started in high school, and I matriculated down to middle school to elementary. I've been a high school administrator, middle school administrator, and an elementary principal, and I would have never thought I would be an elementary principal, right? And there was a lot of learning that came with that over the years. But two areas that I've learned a great deal is how to help and serve our children and families with special needs, and then our early childhood. That was a world that was very foreign to me, and now it's one of my greatest passions. I love our early childhood, especially the pre-K. I mean, I used to call it the land of Oz, right? And I still do, truth be told. But the importance of that early access and equitable access to early childhood education is so important. So much so, when we had empty classrooms in our district, we said we shouldn't have empty classrooms, let's fill them. And so not only did we expand our pre-K, but we offered a tuition-based daycare program to be able to help close that daycare gap with our families and for our kids. And that was allow kids to be able to enroll, because some families didn't want all day kindergarten or pre-K. And so I just look at the investment that will be and how that will pay off down the road.
Just getting them started on the right foot. We want them to love school. We want them to want to come, right? And then providing for those that need extra support, that extra support. So that's a beautiful thing. Looking at the end of the year is coming, you're looking on to next year. If you had one wish, what would your one wish be? And you can't wish for more wishes.
No, isn't that a thing? Don't the genie, don't they come get you for that? Oh man, this is more on the wellness piece. Just our culture and wellness is for people to give grace, and then assume good intentions. There's a lot of people that are families are working hard and under a lot of stress. Our educators are working hard and a lot of stress, and everybody's doing their best work with the best intentions. And I just really, within our schools, within our communities, and within our society, if I could have anything, it would be for people to assume the good and give grace.
Oh, that is beautiful. And what I find is oftentimes when people are complaining at you as a superintendent, which I'm sure you get your share of complaints,
sure.
To sit in it and say they're complaining about systems problems, not people problems. Right? And give them grace to really listen to what is it they're struggling with. Because you're right, the teachers are wholeheartedly the most amazing, incredible people I've ever met, right? And so sometimes when they're coming to you with issues or challenges, you really have to sit in and say, where are they coming from? What are their challenges?
And from our seats, whether you're a teacher, principal, superintendent, it's really hard. It's really hard when you're dealing with somebody that's coming to you with challenges and they're frustrated. It's really hard to remember it's not you. But repeating that to yourself and saying, hey, it's not you. And again, that it's a two-way street in that grace and kindness.
Oh, that is absolutely wonderful. If we could make any changes in policies from the national and state level, right? What would be one, for example, that jumps out to me is just ADA and how we pay schools for children coming to school, right? What would be a policy that you would want to see reform around?
Man, I'm from Illinois, and one of the things we talk about often is unfunded mandates. There's just more and more to do, and we don't have the funding and supports to do it. But quite frankly, even if we had the funding and supports to do it, we don't have the people power to do that. The bandwidth, thank you, to do that. So I think the unfunded mandate piece is really important. And I think the other piece is don't lose sight of the importance of that local control. Education is not going to look the same in every school across the country, nor do we want it to. You're never going to be able to do more than your families and your communities allow you to do, and it looks different. And I've had the pleasure of working in different communities where different things were important to them. It doesn't mean you don't give a broad education. It's just where your emphasis is and what your importance are. And our demographics and our diversity within our school districts, from size to culture to everything, is so different. So I think let's not lose sight of what's important in that local control and ease up on the mandates.
Yeah, right. Let's do a few things well. What you alluded to, which I find superintendents that are having great success normally have very clear clarity of focus. So if I asked anyone at your schools and I went and said, what really is your focus this year? What would they say to me?
Man, you know, I'm going to give you the unofficial answer, like the real answer. You know, we work really hard on what we want our kids to know and be able to do whenever they finish our school. And there's a lot of soft skills with that. But the real answer, I think, the unspoken truth that's creating a lot of hard work, but also it's a huge stress on any educator is getting our kids back and getting our kids where they need to be. Having been a superintendent before, during, and after the pandemic, while the pandemic is, you know, not where we were when we had schools in remote, we have these kids who miss school and we see the learning outcomes, you know, in that. And so I think there's a real sense of urgency and pressure on our teachers to get them there, and just things have changed. And so I think that the real thing is what we're focusing on is to get our kids where they need to be. You know, and that, I think that's holistically, not just in my district. I see that with teachers. I see that with our schools, is to close those learning gaps, that we have, and to continue to work and move our kids forward.
There were some that were definitely in crisis during those times that they were on
100%.
lockdown, right?
100%.
You know, some environments aren't the best, and
100%.
they were locked in there with. And so how do you help them,
Yeah.
you know, step back into the world? And
it's not just learning. Yes.
Yeah.
We also see more, I think we see more frequent and more severe students in crisis. That just seems to be something that has grown in recent years. And of course, that's a big stress within the schools. And then the learning, that goes hand in hand. And so for our teachers, I think really what they're focusing on is we need to get this leveled so we can move that learning forward. That's the real piece of it. And everything we do is to support that.
Got it. Anything you'd like to share that I didn't think to ask?
I think as we look at, and specifically in the purpose of this, as we look at the space of AI and AI in education, I do think it's really important that we think about that digital divide and that access gap and that equity gap that we have, and how we can look at this as a tool to support and help us, but never lose sight that we're still the experts, and give ourselves credit for what we're good at and what we're able to do as human educators, and use that to enhance your instruction, enhance your students' learning experience. But also remember what we're doing this for. It may be scary for us, right? But we also know, I heard somewhere, I don't know if this is accurate, 75% of employers are looking for young people with AI skills. We have a responsibility. Many of us have children. I have one in college now and one more in school. We have a responsibility to our kids to prepare them for the world that they are going into. And also to provide them with opportunities to take control of their own learning. Yeah. And AI helps do that. It helps personalize that instruction, which we struggled with for so many years. It does help us do that. So just remember the positives and go slow to go fast.
Yeah. The World Economic Forum put out something that said employers are now asking, what was the last situation you were in where you used AI and how did you use it? Some were saying to make a recipe. Some were saying to fix something in the car. But they're asking them, how are you using AI in your daily life, right, to enhance your superpowers, right? So I think you're exactly right. We have to get the kids ready because it's the genie's out of the bottle, right? And so how do we help them prepare for a world that we never lived in, right? And so, thank you so much. Thank you. It was so nice.
Thank you. Pleasure. Yeah.